AITA for making my wife pay the huge private investigator bill she racked up because a psychic lied? I am 32 years old, a happily married man with what feels like a perfect, dreamlike life. I work as an event planner. I earn enough to live comfortably. We have a home in a nice suburban neighborhood just outside Austin, Texas, and we take vacations abroad 2 times a year. My wife Natalie and I have built a life together that feels like something out of a movie. We do not have kids yet. We chose to wait a bit so we could enjoy our freedom. We love to treat ourselves. Brunch at the trendy cafes we see on Instagram, spontaneous weekend getaways, and evening movie marathons on the couch. Natalie is the love of my life, and there is nothing I would not do for her. Frankly, if you asked anyone who knows us, they would tell you I adore her. But lately she has been making me a little nervous. She has this friend, Cassandra, who claims to be a psychic. Cassandra even organizes paid sessions to reveal people's futures. She has known Natalie since high school, and I never questioned their friendship. I have never believed in all that psychic stuff, but as long as it made Natalie happy, it did not bother me. At least it did not used to. Not until this whole psychic situation spun out of control and started to poison the peace of our perfect life. Here is what happened about a month ago. We were at a gathering with our friends. Cassandra, as usual, was giving predictions to everyone, but at one point she turned to my wife and said something that made me want to stop her right there. She announced to Natalie that I was going to be unfaithful to her in the near future. It was the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard. I would never do that. The very idea has never even crossed my mind. I only have eyes for my wife, and everyone who knows us knows how deeply I care about her. I thought Natalie knew that too and that she trusted me, but apparently not. On the drive home, she was silent. I did not say anything either, thinking she would not take that kind of nonsense seriously. I was actually a little upset because when Cassandra said it, Natalie said nothing. She remained silent as if it were something possible. She should have defended me or at least told her friend to stop. But instead she started acting differently. I do not know. She seemed constantly on edge or lost in thought. The moment I left my phone or laptop unattended, she would go through them. When I asked her what she was doing, she would reply, "Why are you getting upset if you have nothing to hide?" I did not say anything back. I did not want to fuel her worries any further. I told myself it was a phase and that it would pass. But it did not. It got worse. She started calling me several times a day at work to ask random questions about my schedule and the people I was meeting. If I did not answer right away, she would send a flood of messages. One time, while I was managing an event downtown, she demanded I send her my real-time location through the phone app. It was exhausting. I could feel my patience wearing thin, but I did not want to lose my temper. I thought that by staying calm and understanding she would eventually come to her senses, but that never happened. Things went far beyond just the calls. She started contacting my colleagues behind my back to ask them where I was, who I was with, and what I was doing. Every time I said I was in a meeting, she would call my assistant to check. My assistant even privately told me that Natalie called her regularly to confirm everything. When I visited a friend, she would call him too and have him put me on the phone. It became incredibly embarrassing. And you know what work environments are like. When this kind of thing happens, people start talking. I could feel the stares, as if I really were hiding something, and that was why Natalie was acting this way. It started to affect my professional life, and I was struggling a lot. Natalie is everything I have ever wanted. And if she is behaving like this, I do not know what to do anymore. The worst part is that if she had to feel insecure because of a so-called psychic's prediction, she could have at least kept it private instead of making me look guilty in front of everyone. And then, 2 weeks ago, we hit a low point. I was in the middle of a business lunch with a client at a restaurant downtown. Nothing could have been more professional. Was the client a woman? Yes, but the meeting was strictly work-related. Right in the middle of our conversation, Natalie came into the restaurant. I still do not know how she found out where I was. She approached our table and, in a very emotional state, questioned who this woman was and what was going on. My client was in shock, and so was I. I tried to calm the situation, but it escalated into a public confrontation. Everyone in the restaurant was staring at us, and my client quickly left, visibly uncomfortable. I was mortified. I was upset, but Natalie did not seem to care. To her, it was all justified because of what her psychic friend had told her. That meeting did not just cost me a client. It affected my professional reputation. The news spread, and I could feel the judgment every time I walked into the office. I could not take it anymore. So last week I decided to talk with her. I was not even angry. I came home from work and calmly discussed everything she was putting me through. I told her that her friend's prediction was absurd and that she needed to trust me like she always had. But she got upset, saying that if I had nothing to hide, I should not be so bothered by her checking up on me. I told her I understood she might feel insecure, but that demanding proof from me every hour and contacting my friends and colleagues was crossing a line. I told her I could handle a few doubts, but her calls and messages every 30 minutes were becoming too much. A few days later, I started noticing a strange car following me everywhere. Whether I was at an event, a dinner, or a meeting, I would always see this car parked not far from mine. I tried to convince myself I was just being on edge because of everything that was happening and decided to ignore it. But then a friend told me he had noticed it too. Someone was following me. Through a buddy who works at the local police department, I asked for help. Yesterday, he called me to tell me the most surprising thing I have ever heard. I can hardly believe what I am writing, but it is the truth. Natalie had hired a private investigator to follow me. At first, I did not believe it. I told him he must be mistaken. Natalie would never do that to me. But he sent me all the details, including the name of the detective agency and proof that Natalie had indeed signed the contract. For now, I have decided not to say anything and not to talk to anyone about this, not even her. It is too humiliating for me, but I realize this cannot go on. I feel betrayed, completely lost, and I do not know how to handle this. I love Natalie, but her behavior has left me humiliated, angry, and exhausted. I do not know if I can get past the fact that she went this far. Update 1. It has been a while, but I finally have an update for you. Things continued to escalate, and I have a lot to share this time. So, after what felt like months, and I mean a full 6 months of being followed by a private investigator, the guy finally finished his investigation and contacted Natalie to get paid. Natalie was expecting a big moment with evidence of wrongdoing, but no. Instead, the detective handed her a report filled with absolutely nothing. No suspicious activity, no hidden secrets, just pages and pages describing my ordinary daily life. The report was so detailed it included things like went to Starbucks, ordered a cappuccino, worked on his laptop for 2 hours and 36 minutes. Seriously, the guy did not miss a single detail. And when he gave the report to Natalie, he told her plainly that she had spent 6 months worrying over nothing. Then came the shock. He gave her a hefty bill for his services. Not just a few $100s. No, the kind of bill that makes you question your entire life. Natalie was stunned. When she tried to negotiate, the detective basically told her, "Pay up, or I am telling your husband." That is when she finally confessed everything to me. She sat me down, visibly anxious, and told me the whole story. How her psychic friend's absurd prediction had gotten into her head, how things had spiraled out of control, and how she had hired a private investigator to follow me. She said she knew she had gone too far, but could not stop herself. Then she started crying, begging me to forgive her. I'm not going to lie. Hearing all of this hit me hard. I already knew she was worried, but finding out she had actually hired someone to follow me for months, that hurt. But at the same time, I get it. I know how much influence Cassandra, her psychic friend, has over her. And when fear takes hold, people do extreme things. I told her I forgave her, but on one condition, that she would not say a word of this to Cassandra. I do not want that woman to know how much damage she caused. And honestly, I refuse to let Cassandra think she has any power over our relationship. But here's the twist. We are not just going to move on. I told Natalie that if we were going to pay this detective, we might as well put him to good use. So we decided to hire him again, but this time for a new target, Cassandra. If she is going to create this kind of chaos in our lives, I want to know what she is doing in other people's lives too. Maybe she is taking advantage of people, or maybe she is just messing with their heads. Either way, I want answers. When we told the detective about his new assignment, he burst out laughing. After spending so many months following me and finding nothing, he said he was glad to finally have something more interesting to do. So now we are waiting to see what he uncovers about Cassandra. In the meantime, things between Natalie and me are starting to get a little more normal. It is definitely not perfect. There is still some tension we need to work through, but at least we are being honest now. I can see that she genuinely regrets all of this and is making a real effort to make things right. I am not saying this whole situation is behind us, far from it. but I feel like we are finally on the right track. And yes, I know some of you will think I am crazy for forgiving her, but at the end of the day, it is my marriage. I love Natalie, and people make mistakes. This one was just a really, really big one. So that is where we are. I will keep you posted if the detective finds anything on Cassandra. For now, we are just trying to move forward, one step at a time. Update 2. I am back with another update on this whole situation, and let me tell you, things are about to get even more unexpected than you can imagine. Here's what happened. While our private investigator was looking into Cassandra, Natalie's so-called psychic friend, Natalie kept talking to her as if nothing was wrong. Cassandra would call regularly to ask Natalie if she had found anything out, and Natalie would tell her she was becoming more and more convinced I was being unfaithful. I can just imagine Cassandra feeding her even more ideas, increasing her worries. Honestly, knowing all this, I wanted to confront her. I hated the way she was influencing Natalie, but I figured it was better to wait until we had solid evidence. And that day finally came. After just 1 month of investigation, our private investigator came back with a lot of evidence. It turns out Cassandra is not just someone offering readings. She is not even a psychic. She has set up a full scheme, making people believe she has special abilities just to take their money. The detective discovered that she gathers information on her clients beforehand, whether through social media or mutual acquaintances. Then, during her sessions, she would repeat this information, making it seem like she had deep insights into their lives. It is a scheme designed to take advantage of people who are feeling vulnerable. But that is not even the most surprising part. Digging deeper, the detective discovered through messages and witness statements that Cassandra had secretly developed feelings for me. All this time, she was pretending to be our friend and a trusted person in Natalie's life. But in reality, she was trying to damage our relationship to get closer to me. And suddenly it all made sense. Her so-called predictions, her constant involvement in our lives, it was all calculated to drive us apart. I am upset, but what bothers me even more is how she treated Natalie, influencing her so unfairly. Natalie trusted Cassandra. She confided her deepest worries in her, and in return she was betrayed by someone who was secretly working against her. I can only imagine how devastated Natalie must have felt. One day you are confiding in a friend you believe is close, and the next you find out she has been plotting against you from the start. The good news is that Natalie recovered quickly, and now she wants Cassandra to face consequences for everything she has done, and I am right there with her. We are currently planning our next steps, but one thing is for sure. When Natalie decides to address this, she does not do things halfway. I will keep you updated on what happens next. Cassandra may think she got away with her actions, but she is in for a very unexpected outcome. We are ready to show her true nature for what it really is, and it is time to put an end to her deceptions once and for all. Update 3. Things have taken a very interesting turn, if I do say so myself. It feels good to finally be the one in control for a change. After discovering that Cassandra, Natalie's psychic friend, was nothing but someone running a scheme, we decided it was time to turn the tables. Natalie was upset, and honestly so was I. We could not let this manipulative woman continue to affect our minds and create chaos in our lives. She needed to understand the impact of her actions, and we wanted it to be a lesson she would remember. Natalie came up with a bold but absolutely smart idea. She decided to go to Cassandra and tell her that I had been unfaithful and that we were separating. It was risky, but we figured it would lead her exactly where we wanted for our response. Cassandra thought she was clever and in control, but she was about to find out she was not the only one who could act strategically. When Natalie met with Cassandra, she gave the performance of her life. She acted sad and heartbroken, telling her that I had broken our trust and our marriage was ending. Cassandra, true to her self-centered nature, believed it completely. She played the part of the comforting friend, offering the kind of fake support that only people like her are capable of. And here's the best part. Upon hearing the marriage was over, Cassandra thought her time had finally come. She did not wait a second before contacting me, as if I was really going to turn to her. She called and suggested we get a drink to help me get through this difficult time. I could not believe how predictable she was, but it was perfect. I played along and agreed to meet her. Maybe it was harsh to go along with it like that, but honestly, after everything she put us through, I could not wait to show her true intentions. I knew this was the perfect opportunity to get clear proof of what she was really after. When we met up at her place, the situation fell off from the start. She immediately began speaking negatively about Natalie, saying she had always been a little unstable and that I deserved better, someone like her. I had to stop myself from reacting. It was so clear. She was desperate, ready to do anything to get me to respond to her. And then came the moment I was waiting for. Cassandra started confessing. She told me she had always had feelings for me, that she thought I was wasting my time with that unstable Natalie. What she did not know was that I was recording everything with my phone. I was ready to document it, and I was determined to do it. I stayed calm as she flirted and tried to draw me in. I pretended to be open while mentally preparing for what came next. After enduring her attempts to get close and her barely veiled criticisms of my wife, I made an excuse to leave, saying I had to get back to work. As soon as I got home, I sent the audio recordings to Natalie. I imagined her reaction upon discovering Cassandra's true intentions. I knew it would strengthen her sense of betrayal. It was the perfect step in our plan to address the situation. Now everything is in Natalie's hands. We will see what happens next. Cassandra thought she could influence us and get away with it, but she is in for a very unexpected outcome. In the next update, I hope to be able to tell you all about it and the results of our actions. Update 4. Here is the follow-up to my last update. After sending the recording to Natalie, I waited patiently for her to listen and process it all. When she finally heard Cassandra speaking poorly of her and expressing feelings for me behind her back, her reaction was exactly what I had imagined. She was upset, and honestly I cannot blame her. The sense of betrayal she felt was not just about Cassandra. It was also the realization that someone she had trusted could act this way. But let's be honest, we kind of expected it after what we found out from the detective. Maybe Natalie needed that confirmation, but I did not. I already knew Cassandra was not who she pretended to be, and I was just relieved she was finally about to be out of our lives. Without wasting any time, Natalie took the audio recording and posted it on her Facebook page. She revealed the truth about Cassandra to all our friends, showing her real behavior and intentions. It was like watching a controlled release. The comments started coming in almost immediately. Friends were shocked, some amused, others clearly upset. People shared the post, and the news spread quickly. The woman who claimed to have special powers and insight into people's lives was shown to be someone who had been deceiving others, a manipulator, someone trying to interfere in a marriage. It was satisfying in a way I cannot even describe. Cassandra tried to defend herself in the comments, saying it was all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, really? It was far too late for that. No one was accepting it. Natalie's friends immediately came to her defense, expressing their disappointment at Cassandra's actions. I watched it all unfold with a mix of pride and relief. We had taken back control, and it felt empowering. Of course, Cassandra could not handle the reaction and started sending messages to Natalie, trying to get her to remove the post. She said it would ruin her business, but Natalie stood firm. She told her she was done with the deceptions and would never let herself be influenced again. As the days went by, more and more people commented on the post with their own experiences, and the story became the main topic of conversation among our friends and even beyond, among those who had previously gone to Cassandra. We started hearing stories from other people who had also been taken advantage of by her. The more people talked, the more her reputation suffered. I did not think it would spread to this extent, but I am so glad it did. It felt like we were doing more than just addressing our own situation. We were also helping protect others from falling into her pattern. It was a relief. At the end of the day, I knew we had made the right choice. Cassandra will think twice before interfering with someone else. Some of our friends even suggested we take legal steps against her, but honestly, I think she has learned her lesson. My part in this is done. She is out of our lives, and I could not be more relieved. Update 5. I have read a lot of your comments, and yes, several of you suggested that I should pursue legal action. Well, after our last update, we seriously considered it. But after carefully reviewing our options, there was not really a clear legal basis. Cassandra did not destroy our marriage, and the decision to hire the private investigator was entirely Natalie's. In fact, it was not even Cassandra who suggested having me followed. It came from the worry and influence she had created in my wife's mind, but not from a direct suggestion on her part. So even though it was extremely frustrating to go through everything she put us through, We did not have a solid legal ground to pursue her directly in court for the personal impact on our relationship. But this is where things get interesting. We did not have to do anything ourselves. Thanks to the Facebook post Natalie made to show Cassandra for who she really is, many other people who had been affected started connecting with each other. People who had never spoken before began sharing their own experiences of how Cassandra had played on their emotions, their fears, and their vulnerabilities. And together they found a way to take action and filed a class action lawsuit against her. What truly left me speechless was the extent of the harm Cassandra had caused. While we thought her influence was limited to our personal lives, we discovered it went far beyond that. Some of the stories were really difficult to hear. For example, one woman whose daughter had been missing for years. Cassandra had been taking money from her for a long time by giving her misleading information about where she could find her daughter, sending her on trips across the country on false leads. And every time the mother returned without answers, Cassandra would tell her she had not acted quickly enough, inventing a new reason to keep the sessions going while charging more. That story in particular affected me deeply. To take advantage of someone going through such a painful time made me realize just how far this woman had gone. Trying to interfere in a friend's marriage seems almost minor in comparison to exploiting people when they were most vulnerable. For me, that was the point where it became clear this was not just about false predictions or small deceptions. Cassandra had been profiting from other people's suffering. With all of that, the class action lawsuit moved forward. I waited for the case to be concluded before giving you this update. And I can now tell you that while Cassandra did not face criminal charges, which I find frankly hard to believe, the civil process did its job. The result? Cassandra now has over $300,000 in debt to repay to all the people she had taken advantage of. Each of them wanted their money returned, and rightfully so. But they also wanted something more, some compensation for the emotional impact, for the deceptions, and for the false hope that had been created. At least from a legal standpoint, Cassandra will have to pay. I know many of you are probably wondering why she did not face criminal charges, and frankly, I do not have a good answer. It was a civil proceeding, and although a prosecutor could have taken up the case, it never happened. I do not understand how someone who caused so much emotional and financial harm can avoid a more serious outcome. But justice has its limits, and this is one of those times where the law does not seem to cover the full extent of the damage done. That said, even though I am not particularly religious, I believe in some form of higher justice. Not necessarily divine, but I think that one way or another Cassandra will eventually face the consequences she deserves. If not in this life, then maybe in the next. No one can act the way she did and avoid all repercussions beyond what a court can impose. For us, the story with Cassandra is over. She is no longer in our lives, and I mean that literally. Not that she passed away, but because she had to move away after all of this. I never would have imagined that one false prediction would lead to such an outcome. If you ever come across someone offering psychic readings like Cassandra, remember this story. Comment. I really appreciate how this story reminds us of the importance of holding on to our self-respect in relationships. When things feel off, it's okay to set clear boundaries instead of letting fear take over. I think we all have moments when we need to choose kindness toward ourselves first. Taking responsibility for our actions, even when it's hard, opens the door to real healing. Choosing peace over chaos can feel scary at first, but it always leads to something better. I've learned that surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up makes all the difference. If you're going through something similar, take a moment today to check in with your own heart. Trust that you deserve relationships built on honesty and respect. Keep moving forward with an open mind and a gentle spirit. I'm rooting for you to find that calm and strength in your own life. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.